Life before FFR, for me, it had a sense of direction because I always had my father. He was a big deal in my life. He always mentored me. He always taught me, the value in being better than you are. So life before it, mentally, as long as he was around, I had my life on track. Physically, the demands were always high. I was dual status. I was in the military, not only in the military, but I also had a civilian career that I owned a business with my father. And we worked day in and day out. It was 16, 17-hour days of just grinding and making it happen. But we enjoyed it. We enjoyed the time we spent with each other. And life wasn't really complicated because it made sense just because I had him. I decided to, take a different path in life and go full time with the military. I became on active duty status. And on the active duty status, it brought forth some challenges that I've never faced. And that was at first difficult to deal with. And typically my way of dealing with challenges is with anger. It was a passion and a decision I made, regardless of what my father told me, because I saw how people mistreated him, regardless how he was maybe friendly. I didn't think friendly, being a nice guy, being generous to others was really the answer. We moved to Tulsa, and he still had great aspirations of Tulsa. I hated Tulsa. Tulsa hated me, in my opinion. And inside that hate, I thought it was best to fuel it with the same thing, and then that same hate. I became distracted. Things became unbalanced. And then it turned out the military sent me away for 3 days to Texas. After coming back from 3 days, I pushed the door of the apartment we lived in, and this time the door felt a little bit different. The door felt heavier than usual, and I didn't know why, but I continued pushing that door, and lo and behold, I had got enough room in the door to stick my head in, and I looked down why the door might be so heavy. My dad was laying there. I wasn't ready for it. My dad meant a great deal to me. He was family. And mentally in my mind, I was like, hey, I got a support system, I'll be okay. I got people who care, I'll be okay. Do the right thing, be okay. And the military teaches you how to react in situations when distractful things present themselves as such. So I immediately called 911. Medical examiner shows up. And I was still lost. I was lost in direction. I didn't believe in the death, but when I saw him behind the door, I immediately failed to try to, I fell to the floor to pick him up just to try to get my dad to be my dad again. He was cold, he was hard, unresponsive, but I still had a belief that there was something could be done. I still had a belief because the faith in me that it told me, hey, God was gonna answer. He's gonna bring my dad back. My dad for to stand up. He just needed somebody to shake him. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. The medical examiner shows up. The medical examiner explains to me in a brief sentence, oh, he's already gone. No sense of compassion. It to me, that was a man of greatness laying on that floor, and he treated, with that response, my understanding was he treated my father as worse than, I don't know, sometimes people treat animals. So once again, like I explained, that rage intensified. That rage, that passion became overwhelming. And in that overwhelming passion, I became distracted. I became relentless in my pursuit to fend for my father. And I saw a flyer one day, and I saw the flyer, and prior to the flyer, I started looking everywhere. I wanted to find out, where could I find this person? How can I get this person back and teach them the hardship they sent me through for the next 6 months after he died? I saw the flyer and assumed that I could find that first responder, that medical examiner. I walked into the building, and I had a keen focus just for him. I had no intention of working out. I had no intention of being physically fit, even though I was always physically fit. I was on sometimes the overweight program at the Army, and I had to get taped. I failed PT tests. My best PT test sometimes was like a 180. But I tried to find a gentleman. Unfortunately, he wasn't there at the time, and I never could put the two pieces together. I never could see him. I never came to the right sessions. I switched sessions. Nothing worked out. I never knew why the program was 25 weeks, but in understanding, I was being healed. God knew I needed something more. He knew my heart needed family. He knew my spirit needed family. Mentally, I wasn't there. Mentally, I was on a warpath. Mentally, emotionally, I was on that same warpath, and this was nothing gonna stand in my way. Like I said, I never came to peace with it. And I consider myself not being very brave, but just being relentless towards the pain I had, and I couldn't get through it. It's hard to say where to begin, but life after FFR, it was a blast. It was it's something that I definitely am thankful for. I know prior to FFR, it was rough, nevertheless, but FFR taught me a lot. I hated, like I said, I hated the Tulsa area, but it's a place that I've come to love. I don't believe God hates it anymore either, regardless of how the weather comes and goes. I learned how to use my pain to push past and get something out of it. I learned how to be stronger than sometimes my distraction is. And the strength past the distraction, the strength past the pain, and the education you have to know that life can be better. It's emotional to know how much you can be transformed, how much you can be changed just by compassion and love when you don't understand why it's there. I found a new passion at FFR. I found a passion utilizing the same reasoning I had to fuel my weapon. I considered my anger, and that was my weapon. However, I learned how to use that same weapon as fuel. I began to get a fire in me. That fire burned deeper than the fire around me. I outweighed the limitation that I was held back on. A lot of people know that I consider myself going into beast mode when I come into that door, because I'm ready to tackle anything and everything. But to be honest with you, it's more so, that was my dungeon. That was the place for me to come out of and realize that what I had to go after in a mindful sense was the world outside of that building, the world outside of those four walls. And that was the fueling fire behind it. And that just gave me that drive to continue on. Mentally, I became stronger. I became what I would consider, and my dad would consider, invincible. I've adopted the name to put my dad in front of me all the time. Stone got Rocky, and that became a big testimony personally for me, just to define something I would never forget of him, because part of him was always going to be with me. My mental toughness, it definitely was there. My physical toughness, my PT scores, all brought upon scrutiny. Always asked questions. I've gotten multiple tests to try to understand that there was something substantially in me that caused a difference. And it was, but it couldn't be detected. And that was that fire and that passion that I only could get from one place. My scores went from a 180s, failing sometimes, and it went to a 260. And I'm on brink to get 300. And if anybody is familiar with the military, that's maximizing the fitness awareness that the military requires. Maximizing that for me was exponential. That's something I needed. That was a vote of confidence that I needed for myself, to tell me where my resources came from and the fuel that I had in me was legitimate and how I could use it. I continued, regardless of the pain that I experienced emotionally, I still know that pain was gonna come. But now, after FFR, I knew how to deal with that pain. I knew how to utilize that pain and still push past it to get something out of it. I wasn't gonna let it defeat me. I wasn't gonna let it stop me. As I continued through the FFR program, it started to define itself differently to me because I've gone through so much. And I knew it stood for Fit First Responders, but for me, it honestly meant just to finally find a reason. And finding that reason for me was just anything, just being consistent, being concise, being conceptual, constructive, being creative. I knew my skill sets, and even if I didn't know my skill sets, I had enough reason to still believe that I could do it, regardless of what it would be. And from that, I learned what my true potential was. And it helped me answer a question that I've continued asking myself for a long time. Not only to understand why I was born, but just to understand why I was here. Those are two big questions that I finally answered. And I answered them in the weirdest way. But that weird way of answering those questions for me finally gave me the direction I needed. So I'm always thankful and grateful for what I found here at Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that was Fit First Responder. I am Rodney Clements. I am fit for duty. I am fit for life.